It's dumping day in southwestern Nova Scotia. That means thousands of commercial fishermen can set their traps and open the lobster season. But a stunning day on the water masks a serious dispute involving a big number. $493 million. That was the value of last year's catch here, the second highest ever in this, Canada's richest lobster fishing area. A lot at stake, so it really matters who is allowed to fish and how, and that's where the dispute comes in, putting First Nations against non-Indigenous fishermen in a fight that has boiled over. Tom Murphy went dockside to find out how and if it can be solved.
The woman behind the wheel of that car, she's on a mission.
If I don't do something now, nobody else is doing anything.
That's Cheryl Maloney, a mother, a Mi'kmaq, a law school graduate, and someday she hopes a fish boat captain.
I have young boys that, we wanted them to enter the fishery under our treaty rights. It's so important.
She wants her family to earn what the courts have said the Mi'kmaq are entitled to, a moderate livelihood, which to Maloney simply means a decent living. Problem is, Ottawa and the First Nations can't agree on what it is. This is her personal quest to push the government to once and for all define what a moderate livelihood really is.
We know what it's not. We know what poverty looks like. With 80% of First Nation communities in Nova Scotia living below the poverty line, we know what it's not. And for the government to continuously try to use that definition or what that definition means, it's a further violation of our Aboriginal rights and our human rights. So instead of waiting for that, maybe that's something we'll test. Maybe we'll go fishing and they want to test what moderate livelihood means. We've been winning hundreds and hundreds of cases. We will win in court again.
It's why Maloney is looking to buy a boat and go fishing without a license, whether Ottawa likes it or not. Entering into a serious game of dare you with DFO to bring this matter back before the courts. There are plenty who don't like what Maloney and others like her are doing. They call them poachers. Patience is running low, tension is high. Already 2 boats, one of them Indigenous, the other one non-Indigenous, have been set on fire. Frustrated fishermen gather en masse in silent protest at DFO offices, many fearing to speak out.
Oh, I don't know.
No one wants their boat to be next.
So they catch a few lobsters?
Oh yeah, we got a few lobsters. Yeah, we did a decent day. Well, we got our quota for each, right?
First Nations already have limited access to the commercial fishery, and they can also fish a small amount any time of year for something called food, social, and ceremonial purposes, basically for feasts and special events back at the reserves, something Michael Peter Pettipaw says he does.
Now, are these food and ceremonial?
These are food ceremonial. These are going home. I put them in storage till I make the trip home.
Will you sell them?
No. Those are for us.
So you're allowed under the law. There's no problem with you fishing these lobsters.
They can come in here. The DFO. They come here. They can inspect them. They can have free will at my lobsters.
The Mi'kmaq are not allowed to sell those food, social, and ceremonial lobsters, but some are in large amounts in a black market.
We're trying to make a moderate living, but they ain't going to allow us. But I'm going to be making a living because I'm going to fight the rig to the end myself.
Would you like to get it back in court again and have a...
Oh, I'm going there. There's no 2 ways about it.
This fall, DFO set up a sting operation, inserting microchips and lobsters in multiple illegal traps. It led to the seizure of 3 tons of those lobsters.
They want to fish and cheese. Like food fishery's all right, but there's more than the food fishery going on.
So, non-Indigenous fishermen ask, DFO, why aren't there more criminal charges?
It's a big money fishery too, isn't it?
The lobster fishery is particularly lucrative.
David Worley of DFO understands the frustration, but urges calm.
And you don't want to get too caught up in charges there. I think the measure of an effective enforcement program is compliance rather than the charge rate. So there's been, I think, a good deal of education through the fall and the summer, and hoping that something good comes out of this and that it's clearer as we move ahead.
But what we saw this summer and this fall were non-native fishermen who were frustrated with you because they felt DFO wasn't enforcing the rules.
That's true, and we've heard that as well. And in response to that, I'd say there's a few things. There's a view that enforcement is exclusively on the water work. And I think that the nature of enforcement is changing. Enforcement's taken a balanced and a measured approach.
The treaty gave them a new right to engage in a commercial fishery.
Michael Donovan is a lawyer who has handled numerous Aboriginal cases and is watching all of this unfold.
An arrest would get it before the courts, which would probably start a process that would take the next 5 years or so. I think if there's dissatisfaction with the way it's being administered now, the best solution would be for consultations and negotiations to take place between the federal government and the Micmac bands.
Might that explain why DFO might be reluctant to lay a charge?
Possibly. If the consultation takes place first, then you're not stuck in a legal battle that goes on for years, only to find that yes, the way it's being handled now violates a treaty right.
If a native fisherman takes lobster ashore but does not have a commercial license and then tries to sell them, what will you tell your officers to do?
Well, it's going to depend on the specific situation. I mean, I think in general, it's a case of education around that.
If anything meaningful was happening, somebody would be talking to me and saying, Cheryl, hold on. We're going to get you out there on the water.
And so, as negotiations with Ottawa over what a moderate livelihood really is drag on, the tension remains. And Cheryl Maloney vows to keep making waves.
Yeah, we're going to get out there fishing.
Tom Murphy, CBC News, Saulnieville, Nova Scotia.
The government has now taken a step. The minister has appointed a negotiator to help reconcile fisheries rights. Talks will include First Nations in the Maritimes and Quebec.